When Hollywood's most beloved star, Keanu Reeves, walks into Melissa Carter's infamous talk show, no one expects the calm, composed hero to face an ambush. But what happens next shocks the world. Watch the full story and comment your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories. The Fateful Invitation. Keanu Reeves, the iconic actor known for his legendary roles and unassuming lifestyle, was spending a quiet morning in his modest kitchen, sipping on his signature black coffee. The sun's rays crept through the window, casting long, calm shadows as he casually browsed through his inbox. Among the usual clutter of film schedules, charity event invites, and fan letters, one subject line caught his eye. Exclusive invitation, a candid conversation on The Melissa Carter Show. He paused, setting down his mug. Melissa Carter was notorious, a TV host whose sharp, unyielding interviews often left her guests stumbling or even broken. Her career thrived on controversy, and she had made a name for herself by putting celebrities on the spot, exposing their flaws and outdated mindsets. Keanu rubbed his chin thoughtfully, aware of what accepting this invitation might mean. Melissa was known to target Hollywood's traditionalists, cornering them into admitting their irrelevance in a rapidly evolving industry. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. He had always believed that the truth didn't need to be loud. It needed to be sincere. After a moment of quiet contemplation, he leaned back and typed his response. "I'd be honored." Meanwhile, across the city, Melissa Carter was already deep in the war room of her production studio, surrounded by producers, writers, and strategists. A whiteboard stood at the center, covered in buzzwords and scripted prompts designed to provoke a reaction. One of her producers, Jake, grinned as he slapped a photo of Keanu onto the board. "He's a soft target," Jake sneered. Melissa smirked. "Exactly. People see him as this untouchable nice guy. But that's old Hollywood. Wholesome, unbreakable heroes. We're pushing for a new narrative now. We need him to look outdated, like a relic of a bygone era." The team nodded in agreement. They knew that making Keanu lose his temper or appear defensive would be the viral moment they needed. Melissa was already envisioning the headlines. "Keanu crumbles under pressure, outdated values exposed." Just then, an assistant burst into the room, holding up her phone. "He said yes," she announced. Melissa grinned victoriously. "Perfect. Set the stage. Make sure the audience mix is right. Fans and skeptics. I want tension in the air from the start." Back at his home, Keanu stared out the window, his mind drifting through memories of past interviews, how they seemed genuine at first but quickly turned into media traps. He didn't mind tough questions. He had faced them before. But something about this one felt different, calculated. He could sense the plan brewing on the other side. As the day of the interview approached, rumors spread among the media about the upcoming showdown. Tabloids speculated whether Melissa Carter would be the one to finally break Keanu Reeves, Hollywood's most beloved and enigmatic star. Social media buzzed with excitement and dread, divided between fans eager to see Keanu hold his ground and critics hoping for his downfall. On the morning of the interview, Keanu received a text from an old friend, an industry veteran who had been through similar ambushes. "Watch your back. She's playing dirty. Don't give them anything they can twist." Keanu read the message and smiled. He had no intention of giving anyone anything, except the truth. With a calm breath, he grabbed his helmet and rode his motorcycle to the studio, knowing full well what awaited him. He wasn't just walking into an interview, he was stepping into a carefully laid trap. The trap is set. The studio was buzzing with anticipation as Keanu pulled up on his sleek black motorcycle. The production crew whispered as he passed by, some exchanging skeptical glances, others quietly cheering for the star they admired. Keanu acknowledged them with a polite nod, his signature, calm demeanor never wavering. Inside the studio, Melissa Carter was making last-minute adjustments to her appearance, applying another layer of makeup and practicing her calculated smile in the mirror. Her producers were fine-tuning the set, adjusting lights to give Keanu a slightly harsher, more scrutinizing glow, while Melissa's lighting was softened to enhance her approachable, yet commanding presence. Jake, her producer, pulled her aside. "Remember, hit him where it hurts. Those outdated values. Make him sound defensive, and we've got our clip." Melissa nodded confidently. "I'll peel away that humble act. It's time people see him as just another washed-up action star clinging to his former glory. The audience began to fill in, strategically selected for maximum impact. A mix of die-hard fans, cautious skeptics, and vocal critics of Hollywood's outdated norms. The producers made sure to brief a few particularly opinionated attendees, planting them with specific prompts to disrupt and challenge Keanu when the moment was right. Keanu entered the set, shaking hands with the crew and flashing that trademark understated smile. Melissa watched from behind the curtain, eyes narrowing as she observed his effortless charm. "Let's see how long that calm lasts," she muttered under her breath. As the countdown began, Melissa took her seat opposite Keanu, their chairs positioned at slightly opposing angles to create a sense of subtle conflict. The camera operator signaled, and the red light blinked on. Melissa flashed her winning smile. "Keanu Reeves, Hollywood legend, beloved by millions. Thank you for being here today." Keanu nodded humbly. "The pleasure's mine." They started off light, reminiscing about his early career and discussing his recent projects. Keanu's answers were warm, thoughtful, and gracious, and the audience responded with applause and quiet admiration. But as the energy settled, Melissa leaned forward, her tone shifting. "Keanu," she began, feigning curiosity, "you've played some of the most iconic action heroes of all time. Neo, John Wick. Characters who are powerful, fearless, and dominant. But don't you think those kinds of roles glorify a toxic form of masculinity, one that Hollywood should be moving away from?" The room fell silent. Some members of the audience shifted uncomfortably, sensing the sudden tension. Keanu paused thoughtfully before responding. "I think stories evolve," he said calmly, "but courage, loyalty, and protecting those you love are timeless values. How we tell those stories may change, but why we tell them doesn't." Melissa gave a tight smile, determined not to lose control so early. "But don't you feel that portraying relentless violence and vengeance sets a harmful example, especially in today's world?" Keanu didn't flinch. Violence in storytelling isn't about promoting it. It's about exploring conflict, loss, and the human response to trauma. It's about redemption. Jake signaled from behind the camera, subtly urging Melissa to ramp up the intensity. She switched tactics. "Some might say that by continuing to portray such roles, you're holding on to an outdated model of masculinity that doesn't fit modern society anymore. Don't you think it's time to let go of that image?" Keanu met her gaze, his eyes unwavering. "Respecting the past doesn't mean resisting change, but it does mean valuing the lessons learned along the way." A few murmurs echoed through the audience, some nodding in agreement, others remaining cautious. Melissa sensed she was losing ground and pushed harder. "So you're saying the way Hollywood used to portray men, strong, silent, dominant, is still relevant today?" Keanu smiled, calm and unruffled. "Strength isn't just physical, it's the willingness to stand up for what's right, to protect, to endure. Real strength also means knowing when not to fight." Melissa's eyes narrowed. This wasn't going as planned. She needed to provoke him. Something sharp, something personal. "Is that what you tell yourself when playing characters who leave behind a trail of bodies and chaos?" Keanu didn't blink. "I tell myself that pain manifests differently in every story. It's not about glorifying violence. It's about portraying the struggle to overcome it." The crowd murmured again, this time louder and more supportive. Melissa sensed the energy shifting, but she wasn't done yet. This was supposed to be her triumph, not his. The climax, unveiling the truth. Melissa could feel the momentum slipping from her grasp, frustration simmering beneath her polished exterior. Desperate to regain control, she leaned in closer, her tone sharper and more direct. "You're living in the past, Keanu," she snapped, breaking the pretense of civility. "Hollywood doesn't need another stoic action hero preaching outdated values. Don't you think it's time for you to step aside and let the next generation take over?" The audience gasped at the sudden hostility, murmurs rising as people exchanged glances. Some seemed uncomfortable, others intrigued by the confrontation. Keanu's expression remained calm, but his gaze never wavered. "Respect for those who came before us isn't outdated. he replied softly. It's foundational. It's how we honor the struggles and sacrifices that paved the way for the stories we tell today. Melissa scoffed, trying to mask her unease. You make it sound noble, but you're just clinging to a fading legacy. What if I told you that your values, your idea of masculinity, are harmful, perpetuating stereotypes that real men have moved beyond? Keanu leaned back, his face thoughtful. He could sense the trap closing in, but he refused to take the bait. Instead, he addressed the audience directly, his voice low and deliberate. Sometimes strength is loud. Sometimes it's silent. Real masculinity isn't about dominance. It's about responsibility, about knowing when to fight and when to stand down. And kindness never goes out of style. The audience erupted into spontaneous applause, cutting through the tension like a knife. Melissa's face tightened, but she forced a smile, clearly losing control. Jake, in the control room, cursed under his breath, signaling the crew to tighten camera angles and cut to audience reactions, hoping to salvage the segment. Sensing she was on the verge of losing everything, Melissa tried one last, desperate gambit. She reached for the most controversial question on her cue cards, the one meant to break him. Keanu, your career has been built on violence. From John Wick to The Matrix, your characters leave a trail of destruction. Doesn't that make you a hypocrite when you preach about kindness and restraint? The room went dead silent, the air thick with anticipation. For a moment, even Keanu seemed to pause, as if weighing his next words carefully. Then he looked straight into the camera, his eyes clear and unguarded. It's easy to confuse fiction with reality, he said gently. The stories we tell on screen aren't blueprints for living, they're reflections of human experience. Pain, loss, love, and redemption. My characters fight not because they glorify violence, but because they're broken and seeking healing. That's a human story, not a call to arms. Melissa hesitated, unsure of how to counter his calm and thoughtful reply. Just as she was about to interject, Keanu continued, his voice unwavering. I choose roles that challenge me to explore different facets of humanity. If people see strength in those characters, it's not because they're violent, it's because they endure. They fight for something beyond themselves. A hush fell over the room as his words sank in. One of the planted audience members, clearly instructed to provoke, suddenly stood up and shouted, You're just another privileged celebrity. What do you know about real struggle? Keanu turned his gaze toward the man, his expression compassionate but firm. Struggle doesn't belong to one kind of person, he replied. It belongs to everyone. My mother raised me alone. I've lost friends and loved ones. We all face battles, but how we carry them shapes who we are. The audience member, visibly moved, slowly sat back down, embarrassed but introspective. Melissa could see her entire narrative unraveling right before her eyes. The crew, sensing her defeat, began whispering about how to salvage the segment. But Keanu wasn't finished. He looked directly at Melissa, his tone still gentle but resolute. If we're going to talk about masculinity or strength, let's talk about listening. Let's talk about lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. True power isn't in shouting the loudest. It's in being able to hear others even when you disagree. The room erupted into applause once more, this time louder and more sustained. Melissa's face fell, realizing that the public opinion had already shifted. The viral moment she planned had backfired spectacularly. Jake signaled to cut to commercial, but it was too late. The clip was already being recorded and shared by audience members, spreading like wildfire online. Melissa could feel her career crumbling as she watched Keanu simply smile, as calm and poised as when he walked in. No anger, no resentment, just an unshakable grace that made her aggressive tactics look petty and mean-spirited. The aftermath. A lesson learned. The next morning, Melissa Carter's phone was buzzing nonstop. Social media was ablaze, and every major news outlet had picked up the story. Clips of Keanu's calm and thoughtful responses flooded Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Hashtags like "Showmo gentleness never goes out of style," "Respect is not optional," and "Keanu didn't flinch" trended worldwide. Melissa sat in her office, staring at the overwhelming backlash. Messages poured in, some supportive but most condemning her ruthless approach. Her assistant knocked timidly on the door. "Melissa, we lost 3 sponsors overnight," she whispered, her face pale. Melissa clenched her jaw, trying to hold herself together. "And the network, they want to meet with you. Urgently," the assistant added. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves was seen strolling out of a local bookstore, a paperback tucked under his arm. A journalist caught up to him, thrusting a microphone forward. "Keanu, do you have any thoughts on the interview with Melissa Carter?" Keanu paused, offering a polite smile. "I think we should all try listening more than we speak," he said gently before continuing on his way. The clip of his short, graceful response went viral instantly. Fans and public figures alike praised his composure and the profound simplicity of his words. The contrast between Keanu's serene demeanor and Melissa's aggressive questioning became the focal point of countless commentaries and reaction videos. Back in the studio, Melissa was summoned to an emergency meeting. Executives didn't mince words. Ratings were plummeting, the network's reputation was under fire, and Melissa's harsh interviewing style was being publicly scrutinized. "This is bad," one executive said bluntly. "You're losing credibility fast. We need damage control, and we need it now." Melissa took a deep breath and forced a shaky smile. "I'll issue a statement, maybe an apology video. I can fix this." The executive sighed. "Fix it fast, or we'll have to reconsider the show's future." That evening, Melissa went live on social media, addressing the controversy. She tried to sound sincere, acknowledging the backlash while subtly defending her approach. "I have nothing but respect for Keanu Reeves," she stated, "but I believe in challenging conversations. If my words came off as harsh, I apologize. I wanted to push for a deeper discussion about changing values in Hollywood." However, the response was lukewarm at best. Viewers saw through the carefully worded apology, calling it insincere and manipulative. As weeks passed, Melissa's reputation continued to decline. Sponsors pulled out one by one, and her show's ratings plummeted. Meanwhile, Keanu went on with his life, unbothered by the chaos. He continued working on new projects and quietly supporting charitable causes, proving that true strength doesn't need to be loud or confrontational. Months later, a documentary about Keanu's life and philosophy premiered at an independent film festival. Titled "Gentleness Never Goes Out of Style," it explored his journey, resilience, and quiet wisdom. The film was met with standing ovations and critical acclaim, cementing his legacy as a symbol of grace and strength. Melissa Carter's show was quietly canceled, replaced by a new program focused on meaningful, respectful dialogues. In an ironic twist, Melissa herself was offered a chance to participate in the new format, but she declined, unable to face the idea of stepping back into the spotlight. As the world moved on, Keanu's words continued to resonate. True power isn't in shouting the loudest. It's in being able to hear others even when you disagree. People remembered the way he had handled the confrontation, not with anger or bitterness, but with a calm, unshakable conviction that left a lasting impact. In the end, Keanu Reeves didn't just win the interview. He transformed it into a lesson in humility, kindness, and the enduring power of gentle strength.